the road looks rough ahead and you're miles and miles from your nice warm bed, you just remember what your old pal said. Son, you've got a friend in me. Yeah, you've got a friend in me.
Now please sing along with Jess Hewittman, our hymn number 398, To See the World.
To see the world in a grain of sand, and a heaven in a wild flower, hold infinity in the palm of your hand, and eternity in an hour.
Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over announcing your place in the family of things. The bell and the geese call us together in covenant to bring our search for truth and meaning, to unfold into understanding, sense into love. Today, let us especially remember our covenant to affirm and promote the fourth principle, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Good morning. Welcome to Community Unitarian Universalist Congregation at White Plains, New York, formerly of the Lenape Nation. I'm Reverend Meredith Garmon, minister.
I'm Reverend Laura Kim Joyner, a community minister in affiliation with this congregation.
Welcome to this home of liberal religion. What makes a religion liberal? 5 orientations.
An orientation towards learning. Revelation is continuous. Meaning has not been finally captured. Nothing is complete, and thus nothing is exempt from criticism.
An orientation toward freedom. All relations must rest on free consent. Coercions may be subtle, so the work of removing them is ongoing.
An orientation towards justice. We are morally obligated to direct our effort toward the establishment of a just and loving community. Hence, the voices of prophets are indispensable.
An orientation toward institution building. We cannot become whole without human institutions.
An orientation towards hope. Progress, we know, is not inevitable, but it is possible.
Today is the 4th Sunday of summer. The days are shortening now at the rate of 1 minute, 32 seconds less each day. The waxing gibbous moon will be the full buck moon on Friday night.
And the birds are already migrating south. As a special welcome to our visitors, if you are a first time here, we invite you to introduce yourself in the chat. You'll find a link to the order of service on our website at cuucwp.org. There you'll also find other resources to help keep us connected and a donate button. For July and August, our Share the Plate funds go to Furniture Share House, who collect new and gently used furniture to distribute free of charge to Westchester families in need. We are able to take contributions via the donate button for your pledge, for the plate share, and for the minister's discretionary fund.
And now Board Chair Joe Majak has some news and will then lead us in lighting our chalices.
Hi, I'm Joe Majak. As the chair of the board for this congregation, I welcome you. Last Saturday, July 10th, the Board of Trustees conducted its annual board retreat at the home of Catherine and Chris Cortland. We did not conduct a retreat, the prior year due to the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. Our Board of Trustees, including ex officio members Meredith Garmon and Tracy Brenneman, were skillfully led by facilitator and ex-board chair Steve Beer from noon until 5 p.m. We have identified 3 goals we wish to focus upon during the current term. They are: 1, reopening the building and grounds to on-site activities; 2, sustaining and increasing membership; and thirdly, developing greater community amongst CUUC members and friends. For additional information, please look for an email from me earlier this week, which contains a brief summary of our retreat. Personally, our meeting did not feel much like a retreat. It was more like a spirited charge forward as we watched the pandemic fade in our rearview mirror. And now it's time to light the chalice. On the 4th Sunday of the season, we dedicate our chalice to the 4th principle of our faith, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Please join with me in the chalice lighting words from Napoleon Lovely. We light this chalice to affirm that new light is ever waiting to break through to illumine our way, that new truth is ever waiting to break through to enlighten our minds, and that new love is ever waiting to break through to warm our hearts. Now that quote was lovely.
Joseph Priestley, founder of Unitarianism in both England and America, was a prodigious theologian and scientist. 1752, at age 19, Joseph Priestley attended Daventry, a dissenting academy where his theology shifted further leftward. He became, as he would say, a furious freethinker and a rational dissenter, a school of thought emphasizing rational analysis of both the Bible and the natural world. Having already abandoned Calvin's doctrine of unconditional election, he now renounced Calvinist doctrine of original sin and atonement, rejected the Trinity, and embraced the Unitarian teaching of human perfectibility. At Daventry, the goal that would occupy Priestley's life began to take form: to construct a Christian philosophy to which both religious and moral facts could be scientifically proven. He became a minister, continuing scientific studies and experiments on the side. At age 22, he began serving a dissenting congregation in Suffolk. At age 25, he accepted a call to serve a congregation in Cheshire. There, he established a school which succeeded well enough that at age 28, he was offered a teaching position at Warrington Academy. At age 29, he married Mary Wilkinson, and the next year they had a daughter, Sarah. During this period, he wrote histories narrating an optimistic story of humankind continually progressing both scientifically and ethically. For Joseph Priestley, the study of history was a moral imperative because it allowed people to perceive and advance this progress. Everyone needed to understand this, so Priestley promoted the education of middle-class women, which in mid-18th century England was unusual. The Joseph Priestley story continues in our next thrilling episode. And now, the spoken invocation words from Reverend Dana Warsnop, and then sing along with Unitarian Universalists of Santa Monica, the sung invocation. I Want to Be with People by Reverend Dana E. Warsnop. We need not think alike to love alike, wrote 16th century Unitarian Ferenc David. Speaking of our faith, people often say that they have found a community of like-minded people. I know just what they are getting at, and I know that they aren't getting it quite right. I don't want to be with a crowd who think just like me. I want to be in a community where I don't have to think like everyone else to be eligible for salvation. I want to be with people who value compassion, justice, love, and truth, though they have different opinions about all sorts of things. I want to be with people of good heart, people who have many names and no name at all for God, who see in me goodness and dignity, who also see my failings and foibles, and who still love me. I want to be with people who feel their interconnection with all existence, and let it guide their footfalls upon the earth. I want to be with people who see life as a paradox and don't rush to resolve it, who are willing to balance upon the tightrope that is life, who will help steady me when I wobble, who give of themselves, who share their hearts and minds and gifts. I want to be with people who let church call them into a different way of being in the world. People who support, encourage, and even challenge each other to more ethical living, who are willing to be uncomfortable trying to get there, who inspire one another to follow the call of the Spirit, who covenant to be honest, engaged, and kind, who strive to keep their promises and hold me to the promises I make. I want to be with people who know that human community is usually warm and generous, often challenging, and almost always a grand adventure. In short, I want to be with people like you. Please join now in singing along the words of our sung invocation, We Would Be One.
We would be one as now we join in singing our hymn of love to pledge ourselves anew to that high cause of greater understanding of who we are and what in us is true. We would be one in living for each other, to show to all a new community.
The mission of Community Unitarian Universalist Congregation is the covenant of this congregation with all the members and visitors who would like to affirm it along with me. We covenant to nurture each other in our spiritual journeys, foster compassion and understanding within and beyond our community, and engage in service to transform ourselves and our world.
I've been a-walking with the Lord for many a day. Nothing's gonna stumble my feet. trying to abide in the straight and narrow way. Nothing's gonna stumble my feet. But when my time on earth is done, and I hear my name, and I hear my name, oh, when my time on earth is done, these weary feet are gonna run, not gonna stammer, not gonna trip, not gonna stumble, no, I'm not gonna slip, no, nothing gonna stumble my feet when I go to walk that golden street. Now the devil is a liar and a cheater too. Nothing gonna stumble my feet. And if he gets his way, he'll make a slider out of you. Nothing gonna stumble my feet. But if you listen for the Spirit's voice in the moment of truth, moment of truth. Oh, if you listen for the Spirit's voice, He'll help you make the right choice. Not gonna stammer, not gonna trip, not gonna stumble, no, I'm not gonna slip, no, nothing gonna stumble my feet when I go to walk that golden street. That golden street, not gonna waver, falter, sway or fall, not gonna tumble or slide, not gonna waver, falter, sway or fall, not gonna stumble at all, not gonna stammer, not gonna trip, not gonna stumble, no, I'm not gonna slip, no, nothing gonna stumble my feet when I go to walk that golden street. Not gonna stammer, no, not gonna trip, no, I'm not gonna stumble, no, I'm not gonna slip, no, nothing gonna stumble my feet when I go to walk that golden street. Not gonna stammer, not gonna trip, no, I'm not gonna stumble, no, I'm not gonna slip, no, nothing gonna stumble my feet when I go to walk that golden street, that golden street. Not gonna stammer, not gonna trip, not gonna stumble, no, I'm not gonna slip, not gonna stammer, not gonna trip, not gonna stumble, no, I'm not gonna slip, not gonna stammer, not gonna trip, not gonna stumble, no, I'm not gonna slip when I go to walk that golden street. Not gonna stumble my feet.
In prayer, we take a moment to solemnly remind ourselves of our purposes and our gratitude, that they may guide us and affirm our being. Will you then pray with me? Dear earth and waters, air and sky, the letter to the Ephesians, written by either the Apostle Paul or a later author influenced by Paul, reminds us, for we are what he has made us, created for good works, prepared beforehand to be our way of life. Combining and adapting some alternative translations we get, for we are the universe's handiwork, its poem, its work of art. We are the product of seen and unseen forces of nature, the poetry of the cosmos incarnated and etched on our lives, created to do good works, to live the good life, as from the beginning has been our purpose. Dear earth, waters, air, and sky, we are your poem, written with contradictions, confusion, wounds, scars, written to love and be loved. Like a poem just begun, we do not know how it will end. May the people of Cuba, who have been experiencing big anti-government protests be comforted and fortified in their exhaustion and rage. May the poem of their lives become one of freedom, equality, peace, and dignity. May the people of Haiti be comforted and fortified in their distress over the recent assassination of President Jovenel Moïse. May the global community have wisdom in what help is truly needed, and may their poem become one of justice and peace. May the people of South Africa be comforted and fortified amidst deadly protests, riots, and looting following the jailing of former President Jacob Zuma. The poem of planet Earth is hurting. May all the beings and ecosystems be fortified and headed for recovery. Our hearts, thoughts, and prayers are with the Western United States, where oppressive heat and fires rage on for a third week, and with India, where monsoon season lightning strikes killed dozens and injured many last weekend, and with Florida manatees dying of starvation in record numbers due to polluted waters killing off the seagrass that is their food, and with the 11 countries where only 1% of the population is currently vaccinated, and with places around the world experiencing second, third, fourth, and fifth waves of COVID. May we have the courage to live into our creativity, to make real the poem we want to see. We give thanks for conservation efforts in Kazakhstan, where there's been restoration of the population of the once critically endangered Saigia antelope. We give thanks for the European Union's sweeping raft of climate change proposals aimed at carbon neutrality by 2050. We give thanks for the healthcare workers on the front lines of the COVID-19 struggle, and we are daily invited to pick up the pen of our lives and co-create with you, earth, waters, and sky. Written so for all that has been said, and for all that we carry unspoken in our hearts, we will have a silent meditation, and then the musical meditation, and then sing along with the sung response. This summer, we're looking at spiritual practice in the give it a try category. These practices aren't the sort to do every day, and they aren't helpful slogans to keep in mind throughout your day. Maybe you'll only ever do this practice once every 5 or 10 years, but if you haven't done it, do. This week, make a list of all your life's failures. If you're right in the middle of a major one now, then don't list that one. List the past failures. Give yourself a couple days to make the list as complete as you can. Then go through the list, noting what you gained from each failure. Perhaps it taught you something which you have then used to succeed. Perhaps it brought about a change, a new town, a new job, which you came to be grateful for. Perhaps it set you free, liberated you from some idea of what you thought your life was supposed to be that just wasn't serving your flourishing. If it taught you a lesson you then used for a subsequent success, that's nice. But the even greater gift of failure comes when it frees us from the tyranny of success. Without failure, we might imagine that success and achievement was all there was to life. What a miserable existence that would be. Then say thank you to each one of your failures and be as specific as you can about what you are thanking each one for. What gratitude do you have for each of your failures? For more on failure gratitude, see the post at cucmatters.org.
For our next hymn, please sing along with the Los Angeles-based a cappella choir, Voices of Reason. For our hymn number 354, We Laugh, We Cry.
We laugh, we cry, we live, we die, we dance, we sing our song. We need to feel there's something here to which we can belong. We need to feel the freedom just to have some time alone. But most of all, we need close friends we call our very own. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. Yes, we have found a need to be together. We have our hearts to give. We have our thoughts to receive. And we believe that sharing is an answer. We seek an honest answer to the questions of this life. We seek to put an end to all the waste of human strife. We search for truth, equality, and healthy peace of mind. And then we come together here to talk of what we find. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. Yes, we have found a need to be together. We have our hearts to give. We have our thoughts to receive. And we believe that learning is an answer. Yes, we believe in life and in the strength of love. Yes, we have found a need to be together. And in our search for peace, maybe we'll finally see, even to question truly is our answer.
I was in our building yesterday, and I noticed in the lobby down at the religious education end of the building, the Montessori school housed in our building had put up a photo display. And at the top of it, it said, "When I grow up, I want to be." And below that were pictured the pupils of the Montessori school, each about 4 years old, and each holding a whiteboard on which an adult apparently had written the child's answer to what they wanted to be when they grow up. I noticed that several of the kids said they wanted to be doctors, and I reflected with some satisfaction that there were at least as many girls as boys with that aspiration. There were a couple of would-be police officers and also a couple aspiring dentists. There was one boy who answered Captain America. Another boy said he wanted to be a builder. I guess he likes building things with blocks maybe, and he wants to just see where that leads him. Not a bad plan. My favorite, though, was the little girl who said that when she grew up, she wanted to be a flamingo. I smiled at the pictures on display and then padded down the steps to room 43, where there's Zen practice on Saturday mornings. My talk yesterday, after our 2 periods of silent sitting, was about the koan that is number 19 in the Gateless Gate collection. Zhaozhu earnestly asked Nanquan, "What is the way, the Tao?" Nanquan said, "The ordinary mind is the way." Zhaozhu said, "Should I direct myself toward it or not?" Nanquan said, "If you try to turn toward it, you go against it." Zhaozhu said, "If I do not try to turn toward it, how can I know that it's the way?" Nanquan said, "The way does not belong to knowing or not knowing. Knowing is delusion. Not knowing is blank consciousness. When you have really reached the true way beyond all doubt, you will find it is as vast and boundless as the great empty firmament. How can it be talked about on a level of right and wrong?" That's the story. Ordinary mind is the way. Yet we are taught not to want to be ordinary, to want to be extraordinary. In contemporary Western culture, particularly American culture, no one wants to be ordinary. Everyone wants to be special. As I thought about old Zhaozhu and the pictures of those children and what they wanted to be when they grow up, it occurred to me that those 4-year-olds were feeling and being encouraged by adults around them to feel a desire to be special. Why did they want to be a doctor or police officer or Captain America? Because they perceived in their child minds that there was something special about these roles. I think what they really want, what we all really want, is to belong. Being special is just one strategy for feeling accepted and supported by the people around you. That's the strategy that American culture endlessly pushes. When Americans show up for a spiritual practice group or class, whether it's Zen or Sufi or a spiritually oriented yoga class or a mindfulness class, it's typically because they think there's something wrong with them. If they could just become calm and peaceful and centered and grounded, then they'd be fixed. They'd be okay. They could even be special, recognized as having attained a superior level of spiritual development. Gradually, along the spiritual path, we begin to recognize that this ordinary day-to-day life of ours is not the problem, but somehow already the solution we're looking for. Practice doesn't make us special. It just keeps bringing us back to who we already are, the perfectly ordinary people that we are. But how can we be happy, satisfied with our lives, being just the ordinary people that we are? Even if you know intellectually that your ordinary day-to-day life is the solution you've been looking for, that won't sink in. It won't permeate the psyche without acceptance and support of other people. We can't do it by ourselves. It's also true that nobody else can do it for you. There's a responsibility that each of us has, and it takes a village. It takes a village to raise a child, to make a person whole, to be the conditions for spiritual development. We can't do it by ourselves. In Zen, the practice is primarily, to speak bluntly, sit still and be quiet. Find a posture that will allow you to sit without moving for 20 or 30 minutes, then just sit. Don't make your mind blank. Don't stop thinking. Don't breathe in any way other than normal. Just sit. Just sitting, or to get fancy and call it by the Japanese word, shikantaza, is the heart of the practice of Zen. If anything would seem to not take a village, then you'd think just sitting would be it. But no. Shinryo Suzuki emphasized that it is rather difficult to understand what it means to just sit. To just sit is just to be ourselves, he taught. And he went on then to be clear that we cannot just be ourselves by ourselves alone. Suzuki's disciple, Reb Anderson, has written, "Just sitting is not something that I can do by myself. It's something that we do together." We practice it together when we bring ourselves completely to our meeting and completely assert ourselves while completely recognizing each other. The village of ordinariness is the village that accepts and supports us in our ordinariness. The village where we just sit, just be ourselves. The village where no one needs to be special. The village where we can all just be ordinary, just be who we are. Trying to make yourself special is one strategy for feeling accepted and supported by the people around you. Belongingness in some village of ordinariness is a better strategy. What holds this village together? Early in our evolutionary history, what held together the village of ordinariness was mutual dependence. Everyone contributed what they could, or the tribe or clan would not survive. There was generally high job security. Everyone was needed for something, usually. If or when there was pressure for greater excellence, it would have been felt collectively and addressed as a collective, rather than felt as an individual pressure or an individual accomplishment. Today, unlike in the past, membership in the village of ordinariness is voluntary. What holds it together when its togetherness is not a matter of survival and not strictly, immediately, and ever-presently necessary? It's held together by the power of our promise to be together. It's held together by covenants, which I will come back to after we take a break with Adam. Our greatest 20th century Unitarian theologian, James Luther Adams, understood God to be community-forming power, that power which brings and holds community together. That's God, said James Luther Adams. So we did a great deal of thinking and writing about voluntary associations, villages of ordinariness, we might say, membership in which is not, as it was for our hunter-gatherer ancestors, compulsory. Covenant is the topic of the latest report by our Unitarian Universalist Commission on Appraisal. Our denominational Commission on Appraisal chooses a key area and spends 4 years investigating it and preparing its report. 4 years ago, the Commission on Appraisal report was about the struggle with class in Unitarian Universalism. 4 years before that, the report was Who's in Charge Here? The complex relationship between ministry and authority. Other quadrennial reports have been about revisiting our principles or engaging our theological diversity, about the meaning of membership, about renewing congregational polity, and about the quest for racial justice. We are the promises we make and the vows we break, observes the Commission in its latest report. A covenant, it says, is a mutual sacred promise between individuals or groups to stay in relationship, care about each other, and work together in good faith. Unitarian Universalists are a people of covenant. We're not a people of creed. We are non-creedal. We're not a people of canon. We don't define ourselves by devotion to a specific finite set of texts. We are a people of covenant. As the Commission on Appraisal observes, no single concept is more central to our faith understanding than being in covenant. It is at the core of our identity. It is how we try to build and sustain the beloved community. It is the foundation of our governance structures at all levels. Those religious traditions that do share a creed and share a devotion to their canonical texts are also voluntary associations, are also held together by covenant, and are also villages of ordinariness. For them, their covenant includes adhering to the particular creed and the canon. Rather than covenanting to adhere to certain beliefs, we Unitarian Universalists covenant to uphold certain principles: the inherent worth and dignity of every person, justice, equity, and compassion, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, democracy, world community, respect for the interdependent web, dismantling racism. Those aren't beliefs, they are the values that we share, whatever we may believe. It is unusual among Western religions that our covenant includes neither creed nor canon, but it's not unusual that we are held together by covenant. Indeed, the power of covenant is widely recognized. A few years ago, David Brooks wrote a column, How Covenants Make Us. Our culture's historic emphasis on individual choice has been only growing, he writes. As the internet bestows more individual choice on what to buy and pay attention to, and as growing inequality rends the social fabric, the value of individual autonomy is increasingly all that's left, and that's a problem. Brooks writes, alienated young men join ISIS so they can have a sense of belonging. Isolated teenagers shoot up schools. Many people grow up in fragmented, disorganized neighborhoods. Political polarization grows because people often don't interact with those on the other side. Racial animosity stubbornly persists. Odder still, people are often plagued by a sense of powerlessness, a loss of efficacy. The liberation of the individual was supposed to lead to mass empowerment, but it turns out people can effectively pursue their goals only when they know who they are, when they have firm identities. And strong identities can come only when people are embedded in a rich social fabric. They can come only when we have defined social roles, father, plumber, little league coach. They can come only when we are seen and admired by our neighbors and loved ones in a certain way. As Ralph Waldo Emerson put it, other men are lenses through which we read our own minds. End quote. When I don't know who us is, then I don't know who me is. Marcia Paley's 2016 book, Commonwealth and Covenant, recognizes that we need both situatedness and separability. We need to be situated, embedded in functional and caring families and thick communities that define our values and ourselves, villages of ordinariness, in which you can be your plain old ordinary self without the constant expectation to prove yourself. We also need separability, the ability to go off and create and explore and experiment with new ways of thinking and living. What creates situatedness, notes Paley, is covenant. A contract protects interests, she says, but a covenant protects relationships. A covenant exists between people who understand they are part of one another. It involves a vow to serve the relationship that is sealed by love. The book of Ruth tells the story of how Ruth, who would become the great-grandmother of King David and thus an ancestor in the messianic line leading to Jesus, was not originally an Israelite. She was a Moabite who married an Israelite who had come to Moab. But Ruth's husband dies. Her father, his father, Ruth's father-in-law, has also died. And Ruth's mother-in-law, Naomi, prepares to return to Judah. Naomi tells Ruth, go back to her own mother's house. But Ruth wants to go with Naomi. Naomi says, turn back. Do I still have sons in my womb that one may become your husband? Go your way, for I am too old to have a husband. Even if I thought there was hope for me, even if I should have a husband tonight and bear a son, would you then wait until he was grown? But Ruth persists, and she exclaims, do not press me to leave you or to turn back from following you. Where you go, I will go. Where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die. There will I be buried. That's covenant. The power of covenant arises in your heart and soul when you say, these are my people. Where they go, I will go. We are here to unlock that power. Contracts stipulate an exchange of goods or services, but people in a covenant delight in offering their gifts. We are here to offer each other what gifts we can, to hold open the space of grace in this village of ordinariness. It's not that we are like-minded, as Reverend Worsnop said for today's invocation. We may in some ways be like-minded, but that's not what the point is. It's not about that. It's about people who value compassion, justice, love, and truth, though they have different opinions about all sorts of things. It's about seeing the goodness and dignity and the failings and foibles of one another and still loving each other. It's about giving of ourselves and being called together into a different way of being in the world. It's about not having to be anything when you grow up, but only the beautiful flamingo that you are right now. Blessed be, and amen.
Our closing hymn is number 1014, Answering the Call of Love. Please sing along with musicians of Foothills Unitarian Church in Fort Collins, Colorado.
The promise of the Spirit, faith, hope, and love abide. within our hearts is our guide. We are answering the call of love. Hands joined together as hearts beat as one. Emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim we are answering the call of love. Sometimes we build a barrier to keep love tightly bound, corrupted by fear, unwilling to hear, denying the beauty we found. We are answering the call of love. Hands joined together as hearts beat as one. Emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim we are answering the call of love. A bright new day is dawning, when love will not divide. Reflections of grace in every embrace, fulfilling the vision divine. We are answering the call of love. Hands joined together as hearts beat as one. Emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim we are answering the call of love. We are answering the call of
Thank you for being with us. We share our gratitude for Kim Force, who produced our media, Anthony Russell and Terry King, your Zoom tech team, Pam Parker, who keeps us all organized and informed, and Jane Dixon, who greeted you in the chat stream. For July and August, our Share the Plate funds go to Furniture Share House, who collected new and gently used furniture to distribute free of charge to Westchester families in need. You can contribute using the donate button on our web page at cucwp.org. After our closing music, we invite you to stay in this space and join our coffee hour where you can catch up, connect, and wish each other peace with the words, be safe, be well. Be safe, be well. Now please join Joe Majak for our chalice extinguishing words as you extinguish your chalice at home.
Please say with me these words as we extinguish our chalices. As we have gathered, so we depart, to carry into the world who we are. People of free faith, seeking a deeper truth. People of love, resolved to build belonging.
Live, friends, your covenant to search for truth and meaning.
Go your ways, knowing not the answers to all things, yet seeking always the answer to one more thing than you know.
Go in peace.
Troubles, then I've got 'em too.